Come on, son.
Raphael on the track.
Come on, son. Come on, son. Come on, son. Check. What up, y'all? Ed Lover here with another episode of Come On, Son, the podcast. If y'all been missing me, I've been missing y'all too because, you know, I've been out, man. And we had some holidays coming up, and I don't really like to overdo it. So a lot of times I won't even podcast on the holidays, man, because I think when it's a holiday, you should take off. And I don't, you know what I mean? Like, we got Thanksgiving coming up. I mean, you know, Thanksgiving is this week, so I just think people need to have some time off no matter what, man. So I take time off just like anybody else. I don't want to force podcast on y'all when I really don't have a podcast and stuff like that just to say that I podcast. I think, to me, that's just a ridiculous thing to do, man. I don't do it. I mean, if other people want to do it, they can do it, but not me. That ain't how I get down, man. I don't do stuff like that just for the sake of doing it, man. Like, you know, I know doing a podcast, and I've told y'all here on this podcast several times that consistency is the key. But shoot, everybody needs time off, bro. I'm sorry. Everybody needs some time off, and I ain't no different than anybody else. So, that being said, Thanksgiving is this week. I hope everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. I know I got a lot of stuff to be thankful for. Family, friends. I mean, you know, God blessing me. You know, during the whole year after everything ended at Radio 1, for a little while I went through a rough patch, so I'm thankful to be working in Chicago at 104.3 Jams. You can catch me on the radio.com app. I wasn't even really saying that to promote it, but I was just telling y'all that's where I'm doing radio in Chicago. 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. It's the Ed Lover Morning Show. The ratings are doing good, so my bosses are happy. You know, I'm good. So I got a lot of things to be thankful for. The podcast is still going strong. I mean, come January, we coming back again with cigarsinternational.com. So I want to thank everybody over Cigars International, especially my man Wes, for their sponsorship. We got new sponsorships coming. I don't know if y'all heard the last podcast. We did something with the filmmakers that did Black Klansman with Spike Lee. They were they helped us promote it, man. It was very dope, man. It was very dope, and I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that supported me and continue to support me throughout the entire year. Now, let's get into this podcast, okay? I don't know how long or how short this podcast is going to be, but I can tell y'all one thing. I love music, and anybody that knows me knows that I love music. And I know sometimes people hate when people say if anybody knows me, but you guys know me because you've been listening to me and following my career for years, and you already fucking know that I love music, right? You know that that's my thing. You know that's the thing that keeps me going. That's the thing that kept me out of the street. That's the thing besides my parents, but music was what I focused on in school. Music was a thing that was my activity. You know what I mean? I tried to play ball. I didn't make the basketball team. I played a little football in high school, but it was music. It was always what band am I in and what band outside of school. So it's always been music. So I'm always listening to music or downloading music or whatever. So I have Apple Music on my phone. I don't have a lot of, I do have SoundCloud and I do have Spotify, but I really get most of my music from Apple Music. So I was floating through Apple Music not too long ago. And maybe it's been a while since I've had Apple Music. So Rolling Stone magazine put out a playlist, and it's called the 100 Greatest Hip Hop Songs of All Time. And there's variation of songs and different things on there. And I don't agree with everything that's on their list, and I'm quite sure that you're not going to agree with everything that's on their list, but there's songs on their list that are and should be considered great songs. So, and I just decided, you know what I want to do? I want to take some of these songs, and then I want to ask you, I want to open it up and ask you for your suggestions. And I wanted to do not the greatest, but some of the most important songs of all time. I don't have a list. I'm not putting them in any particular order. If you want to make a list and send it to me, if you want to hit me up on Instagram, You want to slide in the DM? I'm at Ed Lover on Instagram, Mr. Ed Lover on Twitter. If you want to get at me on Twitter, I don't want 100, but I'm just going to go through some of these songs, and I'm going to do, I don't know how many I'm going to do, but I'm just going to do a series called The Most Important Songs in Hip Hop History and Why. Right? So today, I want to start off from my hometown. My hometown is New York City, specifically Queens, New York. Right? And when I grew up in Queens, New York, I grew up in a place not too far called Queens Village or Hollis. They all right connected to each other. And as I told you before, you had LL Cool J on one side, Run DMC on another side. You know, Farmers Boulevard separated them. I'm on a couple of blocks away. You know, I went to junior high school, 192, right there in the middle of Hollis, Queens, same school Jam Master Jay went to. For some of y'all, that's a middle school. For us, it was called junior high school because that's where you did 7th through 9th grade, and then you went to a different school to do, no, you did 6th through 8th. I'm sorry, you did 6th through 8th there, and then you went to a different school from 9 to senior year, and you graduate, and then you go on to college, right? So junior high school 192 is right there on 205th Street and Hollis Avenue, which is now called Run DMC JMJ Way, where that big mural of JMJ is. It's right there. Not too far from us was a Tribe Called Quest, and I could go on, Large Professor, Nas, Noriega, everybody's from Queens, but just different parts of Queens. So I decided to concentrate on what I know and where I'm from, and that's that Hollis area. I mean, Clue is from Queens, Envy is from Queens. I mean, we all from the same area. So the first song I wanted to do is the greatest, most influential rap records of all time, the most important rap records of all time. And I'm going to do this from time to time. I'm not going to do it in succession like a series, but I'm going to do it and then I'll jump in and do other subjects during the podcast. So when I'm doing them, I hope y'all be aware of them. And the first song I want to touch is Sucker MCs by Run DMC. Okay, Sucker MCs Crush Groove 1. Because there was other Crush Grooves in Run DMC's portfolio. So, as you know, I don't know if you know or not, but Run DMC started, it was Run at first. It wasn't no Run DMC. It was Run at first. And, you know, Run was a DJ, son of Curtis Blow. Now, when we grew up around the way, Russell used to throw these parties sometimes at the ice cream parlor, and he was managing Curtis Blow. So when the ice cream parlor on Hollis would close, Russell would turn that place into a party place, a club, for lack of a better term. I mean, it was an ice cream parlor, but Russell would get it and turn it into a club, and sometimes he would bring acts through there, and one of the acts he would bring through there was Curtis Blow. And the flyers that went around said DJ Run, the son of Curtis Blow. So afterwards, Run and started bugging his brother about having a record deal. He knew DMC. You can go back and look at their DMC had the rhymes. If you could catch an interview with DMC would tell you he was patterning his rhymes after the Cold Crush Brothers as if he was battling. That's why it was always a give and take in everything that he wrote. Run had some studio time. He was doing something else with, I can't remember the name of the group Run was supposed to be in at the time. And then he let DMC get on the record with him. DMC jumps on the record. The next thing you know, their group called Run DMC. And the reason why I'm going with Sucker MCs, notice Crush Groove 1, or Sucker MCs Crush Groove 1, is sometimes spelled as just Sucker MCs, because it was released in 1983, right? And the first time I heard Sucker MCs, it was the B-side to It's Like That. Now, It's Like That, and that's the way it is by Run DMC. Unemployment at a record high. People coming, people going, people born to die. Don't ask me because I don't know why, but it's like that, and that's the way it is. Okay, when they did that record, they were kind of going, according to DMC, after that planet rock type of groove. So if you remember back in those days, Bam Bottom had that, the electronic sound was big. This is 1983. The electronic sound was big. Africa Bambaataa and the Soul Sonic Force had that song. Now that's another song that I'll do, all right, on this. But this is how things are on this podcast series. But this is how things are related. They had that song, right? Planet Rock, and then Run DMC comes with It's Like That, and That's the Way It Is in 1983. And Divine Sounds had a song out called What People Do for Money. Like, so everybody was trying to emulate and score a hit off that same electronic sound, right? In 1983, on the B-side of their single, It's Like That was the song that they were pushing. On the B-side, okay, was a song called Sucker MC's Crush Groove 1. It's a two-sided release that really marked this. It really set off Run DMC's career. This was their first single. Their very, very first single. Now, I remember WBAU, where Dr. Dre used to have the operating room on, who became my partner later on Your MTV Raps, was the first radio station to play the two songs. Okay, this was a B-side, bro. So the reason why this record is so very important, remember this is 1983. This was Run DMC's first single. This is before LL Cool J. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? This is their first single. Okay, most people regard this song as ushering in that new school of hip-hop artists with a street image. Now, you have to go back and look before Run DMC, Flash, Sugar Hill Gang. If you see them on TV, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. If you see any of them, if you see any of the groups that were putting out records before 1983, even Bambaataa and the Soul Sonic Force, look at any of those groups that was putting out records and look at what they looked like back then. Feathers, boots. Like, you know, the rock had a rock look to him. Flash and Furious 5 had a rock look to him. Sugar Hill Gang, plain Jane type of look. Kumo D, all the leather, all the Star Trek sunglasses, and that fancy, crazy look. The Fearless Four with Tito and all of them, and they Mike C and all of them. They had Rocking It Out and all that. They had that look, that rock look. A lot of that was because they performed live a lot, and they, you know, nobody really had that abrasive street image and that minimalist sound. Like running them really with Sucker MCs, not what it's like that, but with Sucker MCs, really stripped all the music, because Sugar Hill would do songs, right? When Sugar Hill did Rapper's Delight, they didn't sample Good Times by Chic. There was a band, the Sugar Hill Band, and they redid, right? They redid the record. What Running Them did was they took a beat that was already a popular beat from a group called Orange Crush, right? And in the group called Orange Crush was a young man by the name of Larry Smith. Larry Smith, when you hear Run said, Larry put me inside the Cadillac. The chauffeur drove off and we never came back. Larry Smith was in Orange Crush. So when DJs used to play the record Action by Orange Crush, it was that break that we always played. Boom, bap, 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 boom, boom, bap, bap, boom, bap. They didn't sample it. What they did was replay it. Larry replayed that same beat on the drum machine and beefed it up. No musicality on top of it. And there was no horns and bass and strings and all of that. It was a minimalist sound. We hadn't heard anything like that in hip hop prior to that. Not from Sugar Hill, not from the Sequence, not from the Gap, not the Gap Band. The ones that did King Tim the Third, the Fatback Band, which was really the first hip hop record I ever heard. But this stripped everything down. It was just supposed to be a bonus beat, y'all. Like, It's Like That was supposed to be the record. It was supposed to be the biggest record. Really was. But people kind of gravitated towards Sucker MCs. It did because, you know, an MC is an abbreviation for master of ceremony, right? You know, like everybody is a person who's supposed to be on it. You know, you're supposed to be on the mic, you're supposed to be the MC, you're supposed to be the master of ceremony. So they're really the first ones to come out and say that you're a sucker MC. All right? Really, man. Like, for real, most people say sucker MCs completely changed hip hop. I mean, like, completely ushered in the new sounds of rap. Even Marley Marl's first production. Marley Marl, a great Marley Marl from Queensbridge, a great Marley Marl with Shan and the Juice Crew and all of that. His very first production was an answer song to Sucker MCs called Sucker DJ's I Will Survive by Dimples D. That's how important this song is. That's how important. Now, there's, like I told you before, there's more than one, right? More than one Crush Groove. That's why, now think about this. The movie Crush Groove wasn't even out yet, right? That movie was not out yet when Run DMC did this joint. Wasn't even out yet.
I'm ready.
Okay, honey. My daughter just came to holler at me real quick. So that song wasn't even out yet when Run DMC did that. The movie Crush Groove wasn't even thought about. And that was Crush Groove 1. They went on to do Crush Groove 2, which was Hollis Crew. Daryl and Joe was Crush Groove 3. And Together Forever was Crush Groove 4. All right? The reason why they called it Crush Groove, like I said, backing tracks was made by Orange Crush. Right? Orange Crush recordings involved Davey DMX, which inspired Dave Cut the Record Down to the Bone. He was on there. Yes, he was. And Larry was on there too. Larry Smith was on there. Larry Smith was one of the producers of that record, man. You know, so this is an extremely, extremely important record. If you go back and look at the way records were being made. If you go all the way back and look at how people were making records, what the records sounded like in them days. Even Run DMC jumped on it, bro. I mean, jumped on top of what was going on with Bam and them and was trying to do their own type of thing, sort of like that, right? With, well, it's like that, and that's the way it is. And then you turn around and you look at how that song was being influenced from Bambaataa and them, from, you know, Planet Rock. And then you look at Sucker MCs and how Sucker MCs came out, stripped everything down, made everything just funky hip-hop, like really ushered in everybody, dude. And do that, so who's listening right now, it ushered in everybody, because then LL came in and LL was able to just, you know, radio, and I need a beat, even my beat subject of discussion. Like, that song is so freaking important. It changed hip-hop. And a really, really, really good song will change hip-hop. Everybody that came after that, from MC Shan to Roxanne Shante, to whoever came after, right? Whoever came after Run DMC's, Sucker MCs, absolutely gave you that sound of just the beat, right? And then they added the DJ to it, okay? And the look. And the look. If you look at the cover of Run DMC, Sucker MC, is like that. They got on Godfather hats and tracksuits, and they pointing at the camera. Nobody was dressing like that. Nobody was dressing like that. Everything was super rock star leather and boots and feathers and sunglasses and all of that extra, looked like almost like black rock bands back then. That's what everybody was doing. I know, because I was in the band. There's pictures of me floating around back there with my trumpet with stuff tied around my head and pink spandex on and high boots. We all looked, even rappers looked like Rick James. That's exactly what they look like. For lack of a better person, Flash and them look like the Stone City Band and all of that. Melly Mel had the braids and the long hair and all of that. That's what they look like. But Run DMC coming out with Sucker MCs, y'all, it changed the game. It 360'd everything. I couldn't stop playing Sucker MCs. It's like that was dope. But 2 years ago, a friend of mine asked me to say some MC rhymes, right? So DMC, if you ready, the people rockin' steady. You driving big cars, get your gas from Getty. I'm DMC in the place to be. I went to St. John's University. Who doesn't know? If you hip hop, right, and you are a certain age, and I'm not talking about the kids, right? Because you can't press something on somebody who wasn't born when it came out. But if you're a true hip hop head of a certain age, then you know Sucker MCs, Run DMC. You absolutely, like, there's pretty much not a stage that I can't go on unless I'm around a bunch of millennials. But let me go to anything that's old school. Anybody that's really over like 35 and better. And I say, how much do y'all know y'all hip hop? And they go, yeah, well, we know our hip hop. And I say, okay, I'm about to give y'all a hip hop test, right? And I drop Sucker MCs, and I say, all I got to do is say 2 years ago, a friend of mine. That's all I got to say. Everybody knows every freaking lyric to that song, which makes it a great song. It really does make it an amazing song. But what makes it an important song is what happened after Run and D dropped Sucker MCs. How the shift happened in hip hop. How things were going one way, and then Sucker MCs came out and things went a totally different way. Totally different way. Like, I don't know if LL Cool J would have been as hard as LL Cool J was without Sucker MCs. I don't know if Slick Rick could have been as hard as Slick Rick is without Sucker MCs. I don't know if we would have got some of that best music. I don't think without Sucker MCs, I don't think we would have got the abrasiveness and the hardcore of BDP with Criminal Minded. Because that's what that song did. Everything was happy, happy, birthday, birthday, come on. It was more musical. It was like a lot of taking the break beats that we had grew up on and just really replaying the whole record with a band, right? And then letting that joint come out like that, and you had the choruses, you don't say one, flash, one time, that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? It was all so musical. It became stripped down. It became stripped down. When Run DMC dropped Sucker MCs, Crush Groove 1, right? The beat is from the record Action by Orange Crush. You can go look on YouTube or wherever you get your music from and look up Orange Crush Action. That's where Larry Smith got that beat from. That's where Davey D, Davey D, you're all the best, cut this beat because it is so fresh, which is another thing I got to give myself a slap for this. Because Davey DMX should be mentioned every time I mention people from Queens. Because Davey is from Hollis, Queens, too. And Davey D needs to be mentioned, and I don't mention him enough. So if Davey D, if you ever hear this podcast, bro, I sincerely apologize, because you were also a huge part of the hip-hop musical landscape that was going on, especially from your production and everything that you've been doing and everything that you continue doing, and for the amount of time you was with Public Enemy on the road, dude, and from all the songs that you helped produce like Sucker MCs, you deserve to be on that wall of fame if we ever can get that wall of fame up in Queens, New York, bro. You deserve it, man. And I apologize to you, Davey, if you ever hear this, man. I will never not mention you again. The way I mentioned Russell Simmons and Run and D and J and you should be mentioned, man. Because the amount of work that Davey DMX, just look him up, put in, early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, not only is that, but as a mobile disc jockey, I mean, if you don't believe me, man, just ask Irv Gotti. Ask Chris Gotti. They from there. They know who Davey DMX is. And if you don't, he was more than just that record. And he had a lot to do with the early success of Run DMC musically, too. As a musician and as a producer, he has always been dope. And I should mention you every chance that I get. And a lot of times, it's because of my mind, not because of my heart, bro. But I love you, Davey, and I apologize. So like I was saying, Davey was part of Orange Crush with Larry Smith. And, you know, when they say Dave cut the record down to the bone, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about Davey D. Records like that transcend time. And records like that transcend music. And records like that are so damn important. And you can just go on, you know what? You could go on whosampledthis.com and you can look up and see how many times Sucker MCs by Run DMC was sampled in somebody's record. It shows you how it changed it. If the first record, Marley Marl, the great Marley Marl, did the Juice Crew and Kane and Rakim stuff, and you know what I mean? Those records are the records that gave Rakim and Kane and G-Rap and all of them that came out, man. These are the records that laid the foundation for them to be who they are as the B-boys, as the regular clothes, whatever we was wearing. Look, we're running them. Listen, after that, the Adidas came. People still wear shell-toe Adidas to this day. Shell-toe Adidas because of Run DMC to this day. Now, a lot of kids might be wearing shell-toe Adidas, don't know why they wearing shell-toe Adidas, but Run DMC made shell-toe Adidas cool. And it all came from that look. And that look started with Sucker MCs, which was a B-side. That's the thing that bugs me out the most about the record, is the record was a B-side. It wasn't even supposed to be the record. It's like that was supposed to be the record. Sucker MCs was not supposed to be the record. That's the thing that tripped me out. Like, it's almost like it's an accidental record. Because, you know, and I don't know if you guys know, because I've made records before. You put your best record, back in those days, you put what you considered the record you're pushing on the A side. Right? When people looked at that record, it's like that. And Sucker MCs was a B-side. They had to reissue it because it became so popular. Sucker MCs was the B-side, y'all. You always had your A-side, and you always had the B-side record was like, okay, let's give them this record. We ain't too sure about it. But you took a B-side record that changed the course of hip-hop history forever. Everybody, from Drake, y'all, to this day, to anybody, to 21 Savage, to Lil Yachty, to any of them, can all be themselves because of Sucker MCs. Anybody that want to be as hard as they want to be, Kendrick Lamar, all of them dudes, man, can be who they want to be, and it always goes back to that first record in 1983 by Run DMC. It's like that. But the B-side being Sucker MCs, the stripped down sound, the MC and what they were saying on the record. You know, it's really, really, Running them didn't really even, you know, their routine was, it's like that. Going back and forth between each other was their routine. You know, what they was doing on Sucker MCs was passing the mic. That's what we did in the park. That's what you hear Kane and Biz Markie. So Big Daddy, ha ha ha, my man, my mellow, get on the mic because you know you eat Jello. That came after Sucker MCs. That came after Run Said, so DMC and If You're Ready. You know what I mean? You drive, you know, DMC is If You're Ready. You drive a big cars, get your gas from Getty. That's passing the mic. That's how we used to do 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Come on, y'all. Get on the floor. 1, 2, 3 is hot. Yo, Eddie D, grab the mic and rock. That was passing the mic to somebody else. That's more of that than it was a routine. It's like that was the routine. That's what that was. Sucker MCs, Run DMC, one of the most important records in hip hop. If y'all want to debate, hit me up. Hit me up, bruh. Please hit me up. And give me some stuff that you think are important records in hip hop and why. And I'll review them and I'll give a little background on them and we can discuss it. Hit me up at Mr. Ed Lover on Twitter. Okay? And hit me up. Slide in my DM on Instagram at Ed Lover. EDLOVER. So just follow me on social media, man. The first one I'm reviewing, Run DMC, Sucker MCs, and why, in my opinion, is one of the most important records in hip-hop history because of the way it shaped hip-hop and the way it changed everything musically in hip-hop. Y'all keep God first. Everything else will fall into place. I'll talk at you, with you, to you, and about your ass next week right here on Come On, Son, the podcast. I got some great interviews lined up, man. We're going to be talking to my man Murphy Lee from the Lunatics. I got Isaac Hayes Jr. coming on the show. I got Pastor Troy coming to sit down and talk to me. I got a lot of good stuff coming up, man. I'm going to do, sooner or later, I'm definitely going to do Nori's podcast, Nori and Effen's podcast, Drink Champs, and then I'll have them. We're going to do simultaneous podcasts. So while they interviewing me, I'll be interviewing them at the same time. We're just going to have a good time, man, with this podcast, man. I appreciate y'all listening. Like I said, keep God first. Everything else will fall into place. I'll talk at you, with you, to you, and about your ass next week right here on Come On, Son, the podcast. Remember, I always give you the good shit and never the bullshit. Now, come on, son. The fuck out of here with that bullshit. Later, y'all. This Ed Lover podcast is being done in conjunction with Cigars International. Make sure you check out cigarsinternational.com for all your cigar needs.
This episode of Come On, Son, the podcast is produced and engineered by co-executive producers Kimana Paulus and Krista Hayes. Recorded at Mean Street Studios in downtown Atlanta, Georgia. This is an official Loudspeakers Network podcast.